Welcome to the Aliens Love Earth podcast, the music community that heals the earth with music and art. I'm your host, Jasper Hermes, and today we dive into a historic and polarizing moment. Donald Trump, first day back in office for his second term as the President of the United States. Now, actually, we had a fun episode mapped for this week saying the 10 favorite Earth-related albums of 2024 to kick in the new year, right? But after everything happening in the first week of this presidential election, we just felt the urge to make an episode about it. So I just want to state that it's whether you support or oppose his policies, there's no denying that the sweeping influence of his actions on day one is not only hitting America but globally, and that's why we hit it. So Trump's return to office comes after a very wild election year. Not only in the US but worldwide. It has been a tense year in general, I feel. Wars going on, like the state of the earth is not getting better, and yeah, we were all like kinda, so it has been a really challenging and tense year, I would say. His promises to restore greatness and clean up corruption, his presidency is already taking a very controversial turn. Because the fact that there were like multiple lawsuits obviously against him, legal battles, there has been quite some talks about whether or not he will be convicted for his role in the storming of the Capitol, like with the elections last time when Joe Biden won. So today we will highlight a few areas where we feel that his policies and actions already from day one have a serious impact on society, on social groups that we just want to support by, saying that you're not alone and that it makes sense that you're scared, especially if you're living in the US with these things going on. And also like just see what the role of creatives and planet Earth, like how his re-election influences that basically. But before we dive into what Donald Trump actually decreed on his first day in office, I want to dive into one other thing that really shocked me actually, and that's also what made me decide to change the topic for this week's episode, and that's the fact that I saw within my circle, within the Aliens Love Earth community, also some people sharing things about them automatically following the accounts of either Donald Trump at POTUS or GD Vance in particular at VP for the Vice President. And there were multiple people sharing messages about how they automatically followed the accounts of one of these two or both. And I am normally pretty rational, so I was like thinking, maybe it's just the old account, like it's just that at VP was there, before for Kamala Harris, and people followed that person, and then it just transferred to the new VP. But then we saw this post from the Pedestrian, and they dove into it a bit deeper, and they actually saw that the account was created in January 2025. And then when I used one of my analytic tools, because I work also in digital marketing, so when I used one of the analytic tools to see when the account was created or how many followers follow an account every day or unfollow an account every day, I saw that all the followers were pretty much standing on the 21st of January, which is the first day of the election. So just to state that I'm careful with believing everything that's being said online, because I know there's a lot of very wild conspiracy theories doing the rounds always, and it's very easy to, get into one of those and then jump down the rabbit hole basically, and, just don't believe everything said online. But this was quite shocking because it's a new account. It didn't make any sense, and it was also that what the Pedestrian said is that when they were writing the article, they saw the number of followers go up. So Meta spokesperson Andy Stone said that it is not following and unfollowing accounts automatically, which we of course hope they're not, but it's still very weird. And we then put a post up on our stories on Aliens Love Earth Instagram, and we also sent some messages to friends, like people that were following Aliens Love Earth and also were following GD fans, because you can see that when you see the account and you check mutual friends, you know. So we just sent some messages to people we either personally know or people that have in their bio like very, you know, descriptions that say that they are not fans of those people, so to say. And it ranges from inactive accounts to actually pretty big accounts, but also accounts from like Extinction Rebellion, for example, the office in the Netherlands. Some artists we know from the community. Actually, my girlfriend even was all of a sudden following this guy, which she never opted in for. And like, it makes sense if you think about like, oh yeah, it's the old VP account, but that's not the case because it's a new account actually. And also it would mean that everybody like followed it in a couple of weeks. So the only thing I can imagine is that they changed the name and actually made it possible to just convert the followers from one account to another, which is odd, but I can imagine that happens. But then still, it's weird that the follower number was growing, because pedestrian.tv, when they shared the article, when they were writing, because when they first started looking into the following, he was sitting on 12.8 million followers, is what they say. And an hour later, at the time of writing, it had grown with over 4.5 million followers. And also mutual friends of like the personal Instagram, then like more people were following it, also people that would never follow it. So that's really interesting and also very scary. And it made me, you know, it was a bit surreal because it shows the power of social media. And I just, you know, before we all dive into like a deep polarizing rabbit hole, I just want to say that this is really weird in the first place, and also a bit scary and unexpected. But it also shows like in an administration that's heavily backed financially by the tech sector, by the big tech, by Meta people, by Zuckerberg, Musk, all that. I think it's something we should keep in mind, that, you know, there is power within these platforms. They support it with millions and millions and millions of euros, if not more. Yeah, and there's also a lot of people that got back to our, as said, multiple people got back to our messages saying, hey, we never followed it, but we unfollowed now. We got messages, thank you for using the platform for spreading the awareness. Yeah, as said, messages from organizations like Extinction Rebellion saying like, no, we didn't ever follow this. And this is scary. Yeah, so it's just weird. And indeed, like also messages saying if the account handles get handed over to the next VP. Yes, that's true. But in this case, it's a new account that was made and then was named at VP. And the old Kamala Harris account is actually renamed. It's like archived. And that account is now named VP46 Archive. So that was indeed joined in January 21. But yeah, that's just something I wanted to point out. So if you are following at VP, Vice President GD Vance now, and you don't want to follow him, then just go check it on Instagram. And if you never opted in for it, just unfollow. We did see stories in comments, even people that unfollowed and blocked the account and then looked back an hour later and were following it again. I don't know if that's possible or not. But yeah, just be aware of it. And that being said, please let us know in the comments whether this happened to you or not. Maybe you can go check on Instagram at VP or at POTUS if you're now all of a sudden following one of these accounts, if you were sure that you weren't before.
If you don't want to follow them, make sure to unfollow them, of course. If not, then, equal friends. But we find it a bit suspicious, and we're curious to hear if this happens to you as well. And you know what? Maybe it's a good conversation starter to have a talk about like how we feel about this and the whole influence of the tech industry being so interwoven with the government at the moment in the US or in general worldwide. So yeah, curious to hear from you. Leave it in the comments. So yeah, now let's dive into his first day in office. He signed in total, I believe, 57 presidential decrees, like executive orders, either to make things undone that were done by the Biden administration or just completely new moves. And I can talk through them all. So in our podcast, I want to focus on the things that have an impact on either planet Earth or on the creative community. So yeah, let's talk through them. It's clear that Trump is not wasting any time in making bold moves. As said, he signed 57 executive orders, and here's a breakdown of the most impactful ones for Earth and art. So, impact on planet Earth. The environmental consequences of Trump's policies are already being felt. His administration has signaled multiple times to a return of fossil fuels and rejection of renewable energy initiatives. So one of the biggest ones is the Paris Agreement withdrawal. He ordered the US to no longer being part of the Paris Agreement, along with actually some other international climate agreements as well. For example, the UN Framework for Convention on Climate Change, and it also immediately revokes the US International Climate Finance Plan, meaning there will be very little money going to climate, which of course is a bad thing on its own. But on top of that, there's also a lot of protected land at risk. Trump has reopened debates around protected federal lands. And on day one, he signed an order to review the status of several national monuments, potentially opening them to mining and drilling. As he said it, drill, drill, drill. It's also in line with another executive order that he signed, which is declaring an energy emergency, and he's also like directly pausing development of wind energy and renewable energy projects. So you see very clearly there that his whole goal is like boosting fossil fuels just for economical profit and forgetting the long-term risk of that. So that's a bit the climate part of it and the risks that come with that. So yeah, that's a very unfortunate thing. Now, I also want to talk about the effects on the LGBTQ plus community. And that's because I think a lot of creatives and a lot of art enjoyers either belong to this community or at least respect that community a lot. It's interwoven. Do you say it like that? It's like interconnected with art. And Trump's first day saw the rollback of numerous protections for this community. There were quite some laws that were implemented under the Biden administration. And his administration's rhetoric and policies are already creating uncertainty and fear within this community. And that's why we wanted to point it out in this episode as well. Because we feel that there should be place for everyone and there should be space for everyone to be who they are. Because why would you, forbid people to be who they are? And it's quite easy. In terms of policies that he changed, healthcare discrimination is a point. There's an executive order now that permits healthcare providers to deny services to LGBTQ plus individuals based on religious objections. The move is expected to disproportionately affect transgender individuals seeking gender-affirming care. Transgender rights is also a topic that's on debate and where I feel like a lot of people can be unsure about. So in schools, transgender students have lost critical protections under Title IX, and that rollback could affect access to sports, restrooms, and other facilities. So I want to state again, we are always here for whoever needs it. And I also want to state that if for some reason big tech supporting him thing going on, that we will always this is a promise from us to you that we will always do our best to create a space where everyone can join in a respectful way and be themselves. And his whole story about creating freedom of speech and stuff, we find freedom of speech important. We want everyone to be in a respectful and safe way who they are, and also feel the freedom to express themselves and say what's on their minds, but always in a respectful way. And we will create a space for that, whether it's on some of the social media platforms. If they really seem to be, turning things into a bad way, then we will find another space. But yeah, we are here for everyone. And we are definitely here to back you. So yeah, that's why we pointed that part out. It's an interesting time, and I'm also curious for anyone that is a creative. Are you feeling inspired by the political times right now and by the international tensions? Is there a way that you use your art to process everything that's happening, or maybe use it as a method of activism? If you are, please let us know, either in a direct message or as a comment, and we will contact you, because we are also always looking for artists with a heart for planet Earth. Maybe we can have a talk about how you approach your music, how your creative process is maybe influenced or inspired by, in this case, political tensions or international tensions. We would love to hear that. Because we think artists and creatives have historically been at the forefront of resistance movements, and this time is no different. So we would love to hear from you, and we think there's resistance needed, and we think art is a connecting factor in that. Yeah, so just to conclude this episode, I'm sorry if it was a bit messy, or maybe you felt that it was a bit off topic. We try to keep it on earth and creative. But as you might have heard in my voice, it's something that, I personally am touched about, and the whole thing on the social media thing, we're still looking into that, and we'll keep an eye on what's happening there as well with the automatic following and unfollowing, because it does smell a bit wrong. I'm just trying to say that sorry if it was a bit messy, but that's also because there's an emotional part in me as a human being, and that I find it tense and sad, and I also feel anger, there are so many people trying to do the right thing for the planet, and it's just sad to see that one person can actually make decisions like this that affect so many people worldwide. So it makes me sad, and I'm feeling sad for people that feel unsafe in the world because of people like this. And maybe, especially if you're living in the US, then it makes me sad to think that you might be scared or impacted by that. So it might already be a more controversial and impactful term than his first one. His actions on the first day have already set the tone for what promises to be a turbulent time. And I just wanted to close off with a message of hope, and that's, as we move forward, that it is essential to remain informed and engaged. So let's stay connected, find contact with people you care about, stay in touch with each other to feel supported. Whether you're an artist, an activist, or simply someone concerned about the state of the world, there's a role for everyone in shaping the future, not only for the President of the United States. So let's continue to question, challenge, and create art as we navigate this era all together. I want to conclude with that, and I just want to say, if you are an artist and you would like to get featured on our channels, please submit your music and story on aliensloveearth.com/submit. And make sure to follow us on Instagram if you are not already, because we restore 1 square meter of landscape for every follower there. So actually it's 2 clicks, it's completely free, but it really has an impact. And I think we need more ecosystem restoration projects now that especially Trump is back in power in the US. I thank you all for listening. I promise that next week we have a bit of a lighter topic again. Stay healthy, stay creative. Stay green. Talk to you next week. Cheers.